I used to think authority came from intention, from love, from family, from trust. I was wrong. Authority comes from paper. I learned that in a quiet office with neutral walls and no photos. The lawyer sat across from me and didn't interrupt while I spoke. That alone felt unfamiliar. I explained everything. The fall, the help, the signatures, the freeze, the transfers. I kept waiting for him to say something reassuring. He didn't. Instead, he asked to see the document. The paper. I handed him the copy I had brought. He read it slowly, carefully. When he finished, he looked at me and said something simple. This gives them authority, not potential. Not conditional, authority. I asked what that meant. He explained without drama. The document allowed my son to act independently, to make financial decisions, to enter agreements, to manage assets. I asked if that was temporary. He said, only if it's revoked. I asked how that was done. He said, through a formal process. Time, notices, resistance. I asked if my consent was required for what had already happened. He said no, the authority was already active. I felt my stomach drop. I asked if intent mattered. If the original reason, my recovery, mattered. He shook his head. The document doesn't know why it was signed, he said. It only knows what it allows. That sentence stayed with me. The paper didn't care about promises. It didn't remember conversations. It didn't honor tone. It only enforced permission. I asked what my options were. He said I could revoke it, but warned me that doing so might escalate things. Authority doesn't like being challenged, especially when it's been normalized. He explained that any action I took now would be interpreted, emotionally, legally, that I would likely be seen as confused, unstable, uncooperative, especially if my son objected. That part frightened me. Not because it was malicious, because it was plausible. I asked if this happened often. He nodded, said most cases didn't start with bad intentions. They started with convenience, health scares, temporary help. Then paper that outlived the situation. I left the office with copies and instructions, but heavier than when I entered. At home, I looked around. Every object suddenly felt conditional, as if ownership had shifted without moving. That night my son called. He asked how the meeting went. I didn't tell him everything. I said I was learning things. He sounded defensive. Side lawyers always exaggerate. Said the paper was just a formality. I didn't argue. I was tired. I realized then something important. He didn't need to convince me anymore. The paper already had. Authority doesn't require agreement once it's granted. It requires endurance to remove. I began preparing, quietly, gathering documents, writing timelines, not to attack, to understand. Because I finally understood this wasn't about trust being broken. It was about trust being replaced by structure. And structures don't apologize. If you think stories like this should be told, you can support the channel by liking this video. If you want to keep watching, subscribe to the channel. A new episode every day. Cool doesn't always mean fair.